Ni hao, very warm welcome to our special coverage of the grand animal migration in Eastern Africa. I'm Edwin Ma in Beijing. In our special series, Eco Africa, we'll be focusing on a different country each day. And today we're starting in Kenya at the Maasai Mara National Reserve. It's the destination for the millions of animals that make up the annual spectacle. And we're joined now by our correspondent Famida Miller, who's at Kenya's Maasai Mara National Reserve. Ben Waipaja is in the Serengeti in Tanzania. He's a reporter from Tanzanian National TV. And we're also joined from our Nairobi studio by O'Brien Kimani, a TV host on Kenyan national television. And here with me in our Beijing studios is Mr. Zhang Li, who's an associate professor at the Beijing Normal University's Institute of Ecology. Thank you all very much for joining us. It's a very exciting beginning to our program because we've been looking forward to this. We've been telling you all about it, and we know that it's going to be a fascinating view of what many regard as the eighth wonder of the world. So let's go to our correspondent Famida Miller, who's at the Maasai Mara National Park. Welcome, Famida. Tell us more about where you are at the moment and what you're seeing.
Edward, we're located just along the banks of the Mara River in the Mara National Park, and what we have behind us is this is the river that 2 million wildebeest migrate across. They cross this river, getting to their destination during this migration period. And as I mentioned, that number goes up to 2 million. You have a case of hundreds of wildebeest at the time trying to cross this river. And of course, what happens at the time is you have predators. The river is populated by hippos, by crocodiles. And in most instances, those crocodiles can mean death for many of those wildebeest. And as we stand here, we have carcasses behind us in the river from many of the wildebeest who simply don't make it. And it really is a case, Edward, of survival of the fittest.
Famida, what else can we look forward to seeing this summer during the wildebeest migration compared with last year? I understand it's been very dry in the Serengeti side, and so this movement of the animals varies from year to year.
Exactly that. It has been quite dry. Speaking to authorities here at the national park, they say one of the factors that influences the migration is rainfall and, of course, the growth of new grass. Now, this year it has been drier than previous years, and that's the only thing that will really change in terms of the water levels in the Mara River. Aside from that, much of the situation remains the same in terms of the patterns in which the animals migrate from the Serengeti in Tanzania to the Mara National Park here in Kenya. And what also happens during this period is that it's essentially a time when many of the wildebeest breed. And towards the end of the migration period, and that's towards October, once they've done that, they will move back into the ecosystem, to the Serengeti ecosystem, move back in the pattern that they've essentially came from a couple of months earlier, and that is also to give birth in the Serengeti. And that is a kind of cycle that happens year after year after year.
All right, Famida, many thanks indeed. We'll get back to you later, but we'll be keeping in touch, and that's Famida Miller, who's in the Maasai Mara National Park. Now, the East African animal migration, as we've mentioned, begins in the southern Serengeti plains of Tanzania and going all the way to Kenya's Maasai Mara National Reserve. This journey runs in a clockwise circle and normally begins sometime in May. In late June to July, the herds start pouring into the Kenya Maasai Mara Reserve over a loop that stretches more than 3,000 kilometres. The animals move in search of food and water. Along the way, they face extreme danger, hunger, and even death. The great challenge is crossing the Mara River, where lions and crocodiles await. It's a tough journey, and every year an estimated 250,000 wildebeest die. The animals will normally stay in the Maasai Mara Reserve until October, and that's when they return to the Serengeti, where they remain until the cycle begins all over again. Now, we can take you live to Kenya's Maasai Mara National Reserve, where the massive herds of the animals have gathered. and a big challenge for them, as we've pointed out. And if you've been watching our coverages or coverage over the years, you will know that the big hazard for them all is waiting for those crocodiles, or trying to avoid them, to be more exact. And we can find out more about their situation and the environment. We'll bring you a simultaneous interpretation of what we receive. So let's just explain a little bit more about this wildebeest migration as being a spectacle that has made the list of the 7 new wonders of the world. And the phenomenon involves the movement of about 1.5 million wildebeest, zebras and gazelles. Everything looks very peaceful, as you can see there now, and it certainly does start up that way, but it is the longest and the largest overland wildlife migration in the world, beginning in the southern Serengeti plains of Tanzania and going all the way to the Maasai Mara National Reserve. So that's the scene as it is right now, and we can continue our coverage of this by speaking to our studio guest. And we have Mr. Zhang Li, who's an associate professor of Beijing's Normal University Institute of Ecology. Welcome, and it's good to have you with us. Just can we start off by giving us a general picture of the African ecosystem, and I'm curious to know what the effect is that humans have on this, because my understanding is that there are poachers who are encroaching onto this land where the animals have been grazing. There's also the effect of tourism coming into the region as well. So just give us a picture of how you see it at the moment.
Well, I've been to Kenya a couple of times. With my point of view, I think the pressure of a human being on the ecosystem in Eastern Africa is not as heavy as China or Southeast Asia. So the ecosystem in Eastern Africa, especially Kenya, Tanzania, is pretty simple. It's we call it savanna habitat. It's a grassland with some trees, and you can see many animals. They are in a big herd and have a big number, but the species is really not very many species there. There are only a couple of species with a simple savanna habitat ecosystem. Yeah.
And the wildebeest, we talk all the time about the wildebeest. Just explain to us what animals are in this movement across, in this migration to Kenya, and where do the wildebeest stand in the food chain?
Well, to be honest, the wildebeest is in the basic of the ecosystem or the food chain. Yeah, all the carnivores, including predators, including lions, big cats, as well as wild dog or hyena, they can eat wildebeest. So they have the basic what you call that, herbivore, ungulates.
Yeah,
well,
yes,
the
small.
Yeah, the basic of the food chain.
Yes, yeah. And of course, there's this circular motion we talk about. They're going around in circles all the time. Just explain to us how that operates. It's always a search for water. It's always a search for grass.
Actually, they follow the rains. When the raining season coming, well, the wildebeest will follow the rain, and so that they can get fresh grass. That's a reason for them to migrate in this 1,000 kilometer route of this migration. Yeah.
So when the rain comes, the grass will grow, and off they go.
Yeah, they mainly for food.
Yeah, of course. All right, well, we'll be back with more aspects of this, and you're watching our special coverage of the Great Wildebeest Migration here on CCTV News.
A parade of 2 million wildebeests. A journey of over 3,000 kilometers. Come to Africa this August, to the Mara River, for the life and death stories of wildebeests making the crossing. Explore the secrets of survival in the wilderness and gain new insights into the African land and its people. Experience the adventure with Eco Africa, a collaboration of CCTV, KBC and TBC.
And you're watching our special coverage of Eco Africa here on CCTV News. And today, the country in focus is Kenya's vast areas of the area that the wildebeest will be moving. They've been set aside as wildlife nature reserves. There are over 50 national reserves, parks and sanctuaries in the country. Maasai Mara is one of the most breathtaking reserves in the world and covers over 1,500 square kilometres in southwestern Kenya. It's home to nearly 100 species of mammals and more than 470 kinds of birds. But the most populous inhabitants of the Maasai Mara are the wildebeests. Their numbers are estimated to be in the millions. You can also find all of the big five animals here as well: lions, African elephants, leopards, Cape buffalo and black rhinoceros. But the wildebeest is indeed the star attraction of East Africa's great animal migration. The grand spectacles have captured extensive attention in Kenya. O'Brien Kamani is in our studio in Nairobi to tell us just how big a story this is.
Well, yes, indeed. Thank you very much, Nick. Edwin Marha coming to you live from Nairobi. Good evening. Actually, it's 26 minutes past 4 in Beijing, whereas it is 25 minutes past 11 here in Nairobi. I've been very cold here, but we are somehow coping with the weather. It is a spectacle that is unlike no other in the world. Yes, about 1.5 million wildebeest, zebra and several species of antelopes make a circular tour between the Serengeti National Park in Tanzania and Maasai Mara in Kenya in search for greener pasture. This mass exodus is not only noted as one of the 7 wonders of the world, but it's always a great opportunity for people to witness nature at its best. Now, joining us in studio is Nick Nato, Head of Communication at the United Nations Environment Programme. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Nick. I was chatting to you earlier and you told me that you have been to Maasai Mara.
I certainly have been to the Maasai Mara, yeah. What an incredible place.
Now, tell me this. You have been there, you have witnessed this great spectacle indeed. What are some of the challenges that are facing these great migration?
There are many, many challenges facing these animals. I mean, right now the population of wildebeest in this part of Africa is really quite healthy. But, you know, as populations grow, as more farms take hold to feed people, you can find fencing and other physical barriers that can come in the way. And then you have the more global issues like climate change, global warming. You know, those wildebeest are coming for green pastures, as you said. They're coming for grass. And if that goes because of droughts or changes in the weather systems and weather patterns because of climate change, that could be a major challenge to the wildebeest. Right now they're very healthy, but we have to make sure that, you know, good planning and good responsibility of that area is maintained so the migration can carry on for generations.
Very well. Are you convinced that as human beings we are doing the best that we can to protect this great spectacle?
Well, I think in terms of the wildebeest, there is reasonable management. There obviously is some concern about the number of tourists that actually go to the Maasai Mara and how they are managed to make sure that we don't actually create blocks, literally blocks in terms of too many cars and too many trucks. But all in all, this is going very well. In terms of other migrations and other species in Africa, well, there's other challenges right now.
In your own opinion, or as UNEP, do you feel that there is something that we can do to ensure that we sustain the migration as it is right now?
I think Kenya needs to invest and reinvest in its nature-based assets, its forests, for example. And in fact, there's a good job being done right now on the Mau forest in Kenya. There is a restoration of that occurring. And that's very important because the Mara River, which is what the wildebeest cross, is very important in terms of water supplies, and that comes from that forest system. So there is some investment and reinvestment in the natural assets of Kenya right now. I think there needs to be more, because with climate change and the instability that can create, I think we need to see more resilience in the forest systems and the river systems of Kenya to protect the wildlife, but also the people for the coming decades to come.
Well, there has been an upsurge in cases of poaching in the country. But when you look at the wildebeest migration, well, it has not been so much impacted by poaching, as it were. But we cannot sit back and say, well, wildebeests are not being impacted by this poaching. When you look at poaching vis-a-vis encroachment by human beings, which is the most immediate or which is the most biggest challenge that are facing this migration?
You know, encroachment probably in the end for the wildebeest is going to be the most serious threat, plus the risks of climate change into the future. But you know, people come to Kenya to see the wildebeest, but they also come to see your elephants, your rhino. Now, if they're being removed by poachers, there is less and less attraction for tourists to come. So I think we need to maintain the suite of species that bring people here and witness these extraordinary animals in the wild. We need to actually attack the poaching. We need to make sure that the elephant population is stable and the rhino population and many other species in Kenya, so that both the migration and the other species here are part of, as I say, this package that people want to see.
Well, we'll definitely continue with that. Let's move on now. And the Great Migration is not only an arduous because of its unparalleled long journey, but also dangerous as various predators are waiting along the way. The wildebeest and zebras will face attacks by lions and crocodiles as they march on. Here is a look at the dangers that the journey has in store for these migrating animals.
The migration draws in a host of predators looking for a perfect opportunity for easy hunting. The calving grounds of the eastern Serengeti happen to be outside the hunting territories of most of the predators, although some losses to these predators can occur. The Mara River, the highlight of the migration and home to the crocodile. Not all wildebeests make it to the other side as they fall prey to the large reptile. Those who make it to the grasslands are still not safe. They will be hunted, stalked and run down by the larger carnivores, the lion and the leopard. The Maasai Mara has one of the largest densities of lion in the world. It is the king of the jungle, which poses a large threat to the wildebeest. Another is the hyena. Their packs freely weave throughout the herds, singling out and separating the young and the weak.
We've seen lots of wildebeest dying during migration. You'll see carcasses all over. And hyenas being scavengers, that's what they feed on mostly. And their population has also been endangered because of human attacks as a result of predation when they attack their livestock.
The hyenas have developed a commuter system. This helps them prolong the time they can profit longer from the trekking herds, with vultures soaring above ready to take the scraps. But the migration has its advantages. None of the predators can follow the wildebeest and zebras, as none has developed a matching migration system.
We've had a few collars put on the wildebeest to see how far they go. One of the projects, and it is difficult to really say where these animals go because they have been seen to go to different places. So that also influences the behavior of predators like lions as they move around.
There is little chance of wildebeests dying of old age. The dangerous shadows patiently wait each year for a big feast.
Well, yes, indeed. What a great spectacle there. Remember, you're watching this special coverage of the Maasai Mara wildebeest migration, coming to you live from the city of Nairobi. Now, Kenya says it will use all means at its disposal to win the war against poaching. This comes after a spike in attacks on its wildlife and a blacklisting warning issued in July. Experts say elephant poaching is now at its highest in 20 years.
Following the warning issued by the Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wildlife and Fauna, or CITES, to stop poaching activities in the country, The Kenya government has announced it will not hold back on its fight to completely eradicate the menace. CITES had given the country 6 months to stop the smuggling of ivory and other wildlife cargo through the port of Mombasa. This follows the recent seizure of several containers with ivory and other contraband destined for the Middle East.
That from the highest level of government, we are aware of this menace and that we're doing everything possible that we can to cope with it and also to eradicate it.
When you have a passion for anything, you are ready to die for it.
International trade in ivory is grossly affecting the country's tourism sector, which is a major foreign currency earner, raking in an average of $1.2 billion a year. With the just commenced wildebeest migration at the world-famous Maasai Mara, which draws thousands of tourists, Kenya certainly does not need any negative publicity. In December, 9 elephants were killed outside the Tsavo National Park in southeastern Kenya. During the 1980s, more than half of Africa's elephants are estimated to have been wiped out, mostly by poachers hunting for ivory. The Kenya Wildlife Service is now working with international partners to stop the current situation. Cutting the illegal trade links from the origin to the end of the chain is what they see will help them win this war.
Well, a menace indeed. Poaching is indeed a menace that should be dealt with by all, not only the government but even the public case. Well, we have to remember this is the only earth that we have. Now, we expand this discussion, of course, with our guest in studio. We are talking to Nick Nutter, who is the head of communication at the United Nations Environment Program. Nick, poaching definitely is a big threat to our biodiversity. Now, I want to know, what do we need to do to protect our wildlife from hunting in a bid to promote biodiversity?
There are many, many things that need to be done in Kenya. Clearly, it's been identified that the fines that people are getting for having ivory from poached elephants are too low, and we need to see some higher fines. But, you know, there's a whole chain here stretching from Kenya right across the world to parts of Asia, and the United Nations Environment Program is working very hard on the demand side, because in countries like China and Vietnam, this is where a lot of the ivory is going. And a lot of people in China have absolutely no idea that when they buy ivory, that it's actually coming from a dead elephant back in Kenya or some other part of Africa. This was clear when the famous Chinese actress Li Bingbing, who's a UNEP Goodwill Ambassador, came. She actually thought when she arrived that it was like going to the dentist, that you would actually, you know, basically inject the elephant and then remove the tusks humanely. So there's a lot of public awareness to do. And the first time that we had elephant spikes in the 70s and the 80s, the markets were in Japan, North America and Europe. And public anger at what was actually happening to the elephants shut down that trade quite well at that time. We need to work with our friends in Asia to make the public aware quite where this ivory is coming from and the blood associated with it.
Good. Do you feel, or do you think there is a concerted effort by world leaders to fight this menace?
At the moment, there is not, because this spike in elephant poaching and rhino poaching, which has recently emerged in the last few years, has taken everyone by surprise. And nobody thought we would get back to the kinds of numbers, like 17,000 elephants across Africa last year. Nobody thought we'd get back to those numbers. But they're there. That's the sobering reality. And heads of state, as well as citizens everywhere, need to rise up and say no, because when that buying stops, then the killing stops too.
Nick Nutter, thank you very much. It is our hope that indeed the world leaders will come to realize that poaching is a menace that should be addressed by all, from all sides. Thank you very much indeed for joining us in our CCTV studios here in Nairobi. We look forward again to have you again in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, Nick Nutter is the head of communication at the United Nations Environment Program. He has been talking to us live here from CCTV studios here in Nairobi. I am O'Brien Kimani. Remember, this is a special coverage of the great migration of the wildebeest, which is currently underway in the Maasai Mara National Park. I have to hand you over to Edwin Maher in our Beijing studios. Thank you very much for being part of this broadcast. Edwin, take it up.
Okay, many thanks indeed, O'Brien. That's very interesting, and the interview, of course, with Nick as well. And we're going to stay in Kenya, even though we're leaving our Nairobi studio, because waiting for us is Kofa Murenji. He's actually in the Maasai Mara. So hi there, Kofa. Good to have you with us on our special coverage. We've been doing this before, and you're very expert and familiar with the areas. I know you've been talking with some of the locals there. What have they been doing to protect the grassland?
Well, that has been a big problem in the past years, because you know, the communities that live in and around the Maasai Mara are the Maasai from the Maasai community, and most of them are pastoralists. And in the past, there was, you know, they wouldn't understand why they could not be let, you know, to graze their cattle and their livestock inside the park, and that was a source of conflict between authorities here and the local communities. But we've been talking to some of the young men who are now working in the tourism industry. Actually, it's a rule that about 75% of those who work in lodges, those who work as tour drivers, those who work as tour guides, are supposed to come from this area. And they say they have seen significant importance to the grassland and to the wildlife around here. And they feel that this is now their responsibility to sensitize the local community on the importance of conserving the grassland and the importance of conserving and protecting the wildlife. Because they say this has now become their source of livelihood, not just for them, but also for their families and the community at large. But a huge you know, part has been played by the Kenya Wildlife Service Rangers, whose main responsibility is to protect the wildlife and the grassland here. And now I'm joined by one of them. He will be telling us exactly what the department has been doing as at this moment to ensure that the grassland is protected, and also to ensure that the wildlife around the national park are protected. Welcome, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm Dixon Kani. I work in Maasai Mara as a ranger, taking care of the reserve. Okay, in the past few years ago, there was a big problem or a big challenge for inside the park between the local communities who are near the park. But nowadays, we have stopped them from going to graze inside the park or going around the park without any security. So nowadays, there is no any problem inside the park, because the past days ago they have been grazing inside the park, but nowadays that's I don't think nowadays there's no any problem. The animals are safe, no problem. They are and even the community, they are safe because they have benefited inside this park.
We also understand that sorry, an arrangement has been made so that some of the communities can actually graze their livestock in the conservancies that are just outside of the national park. How has that also?
Okay, that's also there, because there are some other conservancies outside the national reserve, and those conservancies are those lands are from the owners, so they are allowed to graze their cattle, to live inside the conservancies. So that is why nowadays the grazing inside the park is no. And also that conservancies, they have benefit peoples of those lands, because those guides who drive the tours are from that area, and also they have benefited. There are also some manyatas which the Maasai women sell their ornaments. So even there they have benefited.
Well, well said there. Of course, it takes great effort to protect, the grassland and the wildlife, and that is why it is possible now and constantly to see the annual wildebeest migration. Looking just in front of me, I can see zebras and a herd of wildebeest coming closer to the Mara River, which we are standing just next to, and we are hoping that they will be crossing any time. from now. Probably I could just let my cameraman just pan and show you that view as we, pitch tent to bring you this exciting crossing.
Okay, Kofa, many thanks indeed. That's Kofa Barenchi, who's there in the Maasai Mara. Everything looks peaceful at the moment, but who knows what's around the corner. Well, you're watching our special program, Eco Africa, here on CCTV News. We'll be right back after this short break.
Africa on the move and nature in transition.
Documenting it, making people in China and the world over see it, is certainly something useful.
The majesty of the natural world in the raw.
Millions of wildebeest attempt to cross the Mara River.
People and wildlife meeting the challenges of this harsh environment.
It gives you an imperative and a reason to protect it. But you're also...
The future of this fragile continent hangs in the balance. Join us for Eco Africa, a special focus on our efforts to protect our natural heritage.
And you are with our special coverage, Eco Africa, and we're going to speak again to our studio guest, Zhang Li, Associate Professor from the Institute of Ecology at the Beijing Normal University. Thanks for being with us. It's fascinating, isn't it? The scenes that we've seen so far, it all looks very peaceful, but it raises the question because there has to be a relationship between man and nature, and I'm curious to know what your view is about how Africa is striking a balance between economic development and also eco protection, because this is the very difficult path that they have to walk.
Actually, I believe the current ecosystem in Eastern Africa, the Maasai Mara and Serengeti in Kenya and Tanzania, the wildlife population and the local ecosystem support the local economy because they bring a lot of tourism to the country, like Kenya and Tanzania. Every year, hundreds of millions of people, they come to the country and want to see the wildlife and bring huge benefit for both protected area and the local communities. And I think this is the importance of a health ecosystem in that area to support so many wildlife and to support the ecosystem in the region. So you can see to protect the ecosystem can bring benefit not only for economic development but also for people from outside who can learn what the real wild African look like. This is a benefit for the people around the world.
Well, the people around the world are certainly seeing it here on our special broadcast. And I know there are lots of tourists there, many tourists who have flocked to the area to see this special event. But we'll talk later on. So for more on the migration, we're joined live by a reporter from Tanzanian State TV, Ben Makwaja, who is standing by in the Serengeti. Ben, good to have you with us for our special coverage. Just bring us up to date about the current situation on the Serengeti Plains, and how does your network, the Tanzanian broadcaster, plan to cover this great wonder of nature?
Yeah, great, Edwin. I heard you. Good morning to our East African viewers, and good afternoon to Beijing. Here is Serengeti, and the weather is quite fine at the moment, but it is cool and sometimes windy. And as we speak now, quite a number of wildlife migration have already left for Maasai Mara. And it is estimated that over 2 million wildebeests, including zebras, have been moving to the Maasai Mara for quite some time now. It is estimated that over 2 million people, as you said, over 2 million. I'm sorry, over 2 million animals have already been migrated to that area, and few of them are still lying along Mara River and Kirawira rivers, so that they are waiting to cross to Maasai Mara National Reserve there in Kenya. They go there to search for fresh grass and water. So even though those animals are moving to the Maasai Mara, we have heard today morning that quite a relative number of them are returning back to the Serengeti. And when we were coming here to this location, we saw big herds of wildebeests and zebras crossing Sun River to the Serengeti. It means they won't stay there for a long time. And I also remember last year, this wildebeest migration stayed only for 2 weeks in the Maasai Mara. And this is due to the fact that here in the Serengeti, it has started raining. So these animals have the sense of sensing different kind of environment, and they have seen nowadays that the Serengeti is now raining. It has some rainfall, and we witnessed this when we were staying here in the Lobo. So this is a great thing. And here there are some animals who do not move to the Maasai Mara. These animals are called the residence wildlife. And behind me you can see quite a number of them. These do not want to go to any place. They find Serengeti as their permanent home. So they don't want, if you can say, they don't want to go abroad. You see, it is a great moment here. We are enjoying the scenes, we are enjoying the shows as it is going on here. And the Serengeti is trying to recover, because the early burning process is taking place here. That means they allow the fresh grass to grow so that they can be taken by this wildebeest migration when they return to Serengeti. This is a great thing. And as we mentioned or pointed out before, we are in collaboration here with CCTV. TBC and CCTV are working together to make this kind of scenic event be shown all over the world. And beside me, I'm standing with my friend or my colleague from the CCTV, Bao.
Jumbo.
How are you?
Fine, how are you? And I think this is, for me, I don't know whether it is for you, is extraordinary experience here, because for me, this is the first time I stand with a foreign colleague in front of one camera and facing international TV. So for me, I'm quite fine with this.
Yeah, that's good. And this is a great thing that we are broadcasting this stuff live. And we are very thankful to the CCTV for technical advice and all the equipment you've devoted to bring down here. And as we know, we are broadcasting in five locations, different locations. Here in the Serengeti, Dar es Salaam, Maasai Mara, Nairobi, and Beijing. How do you explain about that?
You know, actually, this is the second time for CCTV to live the animal migration here. This time with the Tanzania colleagues here, so we really learn a lot and know more about East Africa this time, because, you know, in the few past days we talked a lot. We get updated information, actually not only about the animals back us, but also about the culture and the people here. So maybe this will help us to enrich our program to let us know more about this land. I think that's a marvelous experience.
We have also the need to enjoy our population. I know China has a very large population, about 1.3 billion people in Tanzania.
And also TBC is very popular in Africa.
We are 45 million. I think we grab this kind of audience and bring them here to this arena to see what is happening. Now, it is a spectacular event.
Now totally we have 1.8 billion people viewing this program, and here we have a common goal, is bring this significant view here back to your house.
And anywhere where our viewers are right now. So this is a great thing. And we have the common focus that we need to address or create an awareness to people that these animals, these adorable animals, should be protected.
Yeah, we should take care of our nature and take care of these animals. That is our common goal here.
Yeah, Edwin, this is all what we have here in the Serengeti. Thanks for the time. Back to you.
All right, Ben, many thanks indeed. Thanks to you both. And that, of course, leading that discussion was Ben Wepaja, who is from Tanzanian State TV. So thanks to all of those who took part, both here in Beijing and in Nairobi, and also to our special studio guest, Zhang Li, Associate Professor from the Institute of Ecology at Beijing Normal University. And we look forward to having more discussion with you later in our coverage, which is going to continue for several days yet. And you will not miss any action, I promise you that, especially when it comes to that crucial crossing of the Mara River. So that's it for now. I'm Edwin Marr, and I'll be back shortly with our next news update here at CCTV News.